Hello, creative friends. This is Joy. So, I am going to make a couple of junk journals. A friend of mine gifted me this folder full of different papers and another bag full of different papers that she got from um, some kind of a secondhand shop when she asked them if they had any old papers and magazines. They kind of loaded her up, so she gifted me a whole bunch, and I decided that I was going to make two junk journals out of these papers, one for her and one for myself. So right now I'm going through all the papers and I'm making two piles because I want to make sure that I have enough papers for the two different junk journals that I'm going to make. I have decided that I'm going to make, and here's the bag full of stuff that I'm showing you real quick. I've decided that I want to make these junk journals out of some packaging for the cover, and then, papers from this stash that she gifted me. And so I'm going to do four signatures, and I'm going to do 10 um, papers in each signature. And so that would mean that I would need 40 pieces of paper, and when you fold them in half, then you end up with like 80 pages, if that makes sense. So I'm going through and I'm kind of determining or deciding, what papers I want to add. And at this point, most of my papers were standard size. And I thought, it'd be nice to find some papers that are a little bit smaller, so that way that you've got some pages that are a different size. So I'm kind of looking through here some of the smaller items that she gifted me to determine what can I use for smaller pages in this journal. And I did find a few things in the stash that she gifted me. And some of the things that I found, I was going to use these things. They were like some kind of cards with a gold um, frame around them, and then some envelopes, but I opted not to use those. I ended up getting, I think, a few more pages than I thought I would need, and some of the pages I didn't use, like the one there with the farmhouse on it. I was going to use, and I did not. I ended up not using that. But some of these smaller papers, I did end up putting into envelopes and attaching them to the journal. So you'll see that when I go to decorate the journals. And so here I'm just counting how many pages I have so far and how many more I'm going to need. And as I was saying, for smaller pages, I did find in the stash that she gave me some pages from stationery and or journals. Like here, this looks like some kind of stationery, and I remembered that I had in my own stash, because I did end up including a few things from my stash as well. I had in my stash some stationery that I thought would be good to use in the journals. And I like these guest ticket things. I thought those were kind of neat. I had quite a few of those, so I even put some of those in pockets and things when I went to decorate the journal. And some of these, they have kind of like the rough edges, and I didn't bother to try to trim those off or anything. I just left them on there because I thought, it'll kind of add to the junk journal aesthetic. And again, I'm counting, making sure how many pages I have. I need 40 pieces of paper for each of the journals that I'm going to create. And so now that I've got all my pages that I'm going to use for each journal, I start folding them in half and putting them in piles of 4, because as I said, I want 4 signatures, which is 4 sets of pages, 10 pages in each. And I'm trying to mix and match because a lot of the papers I was able to put like 2 of the same paper um, in each journal because there was plenty there. And and not all, but a lot of them I was able to find like four pieces of the same thing. So I put 2 in one and 2 in the other journal. And then here, like I said, just trying to mix and match and spread them out so that I've got a nice variety of pages. And so then once I get those all together, I'm measuring my pages, and I've got this packaging that's too tall, so I cut off what I needed to cut off. I did allow like 1/8 of an inch for top and bottom, and then I'm using Fabri-Tac glue to glue down the edges that are open. I could have left the one end open for a pocket, but I decided I don't want to deal with all that. And here I want to remove this sticker because you're going to be able to see the packaging, and I don't want the sticker on there. I could have left it on there, I guess. That would have been kind of cool, but I removed it. And it was sticky, so I added a little powder to it to get some of the, to kind of cover up the sticky, and then I sprayed some water on a rag to try to wipe off some of the powder. So here's the other one that I created, because I did one and I kind of goofed up on it, but I went ahead and used it. And so I kind of used that as a template to create the other cover. And here I'm measuring. I measured the one cover, the spine, which I made 2 1/4 inches wide, and I divided that into 4 sections, and then measured where the other cover, the size of the other cover, and then what's left I'm going to use for a flap to go over, cover over. It's going to be, the whole thing's going to be a wraparound kind of cover. And I just, as you saw there, kind of put the 2 sides together and cut out a rounded corner so that way both sides would match and they would be the same. And again, I'm just using my Fabri-Tac glue and gluing that down as best that I can. And cleaning up. I could have edited that out, but I wanted to show you that if you get glue on your mat, it's easy to take like a little razor scraper. I get them from Harbor Freight and scrape it off. So here I'm folding it. I folded it where the spine was on either side and where that flap would come over, so that way I have my folds in the cover. And I'm using an ink pad to go around the edges, and then where the folds are, I use my ink pad to also ink the, where it folds. And on this one I kind of goofed up. I think this is the one. One of them I goofed up on. I thought, well, I'll just use that for mine and like, looking at it now, you can kind of see it's off. It's a little off. I don't know how I got it off, but I did on the right side there. And then I realized, wait a minute, that doesn't even look even once I inked up where the spine was. So I fold it and crease it really good on one side of the spine and ink it, and then I fold it the other way and ink it on the other side. So I ink it on both sides to try to define where the spine is, where the cover is, the back cover, and then what's left is the flap. So here I'm using the ruler to help me fold it over, and then a bone folder to really, get that good crease in where the spine is. And here I'm doing it on the other side so that I can ink that side as well. And then, yeah, I think this is some point, one of these, I like like I said, messed it up. And this particular part, um, yeah, it is this one, because this particular part, I inked it, because I measured 2 1/4 the width of the spine and then creased it, and then I inked it, but I decided not to on the other because depending on how, and here's where I realized it's off. But I figured on the other one, I didn't want to ink it because depending on how fat the journal is, that's going to change. And so, since I kind of messed this one up, I ended up deciding, well, this will be mine. I don't really care that it's like, you know, got 2 different places where it's inked up, and the cleaner one I use for her journal cover. So I'm, just trying to get this one creased and inked, and then that's where I had to re-crease it and re-ink it because somehow I ended up with it off. I think it was off like 1/4 of an inch, so you can see there. And then I tried to use a dauber to kind of add a little bit more ink to try to, I guess, not be able, not be able to see that it's double crease, but that you still can tell. And that's going to be on the inside, so yeah. So basically I do both covers the same exact way, except for I don't goof up on the other one. I made sure, yeah, that I did it right on the second one. And so here I'm doing the same thing. I'm measuring out the cover, the spine, and just double checking everything. And then I crease it and ink it and do the same thing on this cover as well. So I ended up, this is going to be part 1 of 2 videos because I couldn't include everything in one video. It was going to be too long. It was going to be like an hour long. But I was able to do 2 videos and narrate them down to like a half hour each. So if you're interested in creating a junk journal, like this, then you can like see what the steps are and then create one. And basically, I mean, you can take any kind of a packaging or a paper bag. A paper bag will work as well. Originally, I think I was thinking I would use a paper bag, but then I went and looked in my stash. I found these 2 mailing envelopes. I'm like, oh, okay, those will work. And so I decided to use those. I kind of like that they've got kind of padding on the inside of them, and they're kind of crinkly. So they're kind of tactile too, which is kind of cool. And since it was long enough to where I could have like a flap that would wrap around, I thought that would be, a cool feature as well of this cover, to have it where it wraps around. And so I'm just continuing to crease using my ruler to get a good crease and a bone folder to crease it down, and then to ink it. In the second video, when I go to show you how I decorate it, I basically just filmed decorating the one journal that I'm creating for my friend. And then I'll show you a flip through of both at the end of that video. So this here is some kind of, I think it's for photos and stuff. I'm not sure, but I use the heck out of these things. She probably didn't know what to do with them, and hey, I used them for pockets, and here I wanted to use it for the front, so I had to pull off the plastic, and then I cut it down. Here I'm cutting it down to pockets. I decided I'm going to put pockets on the front and the back cover of this journal, actually of both journals. So on the inside, I wanted to add pockets to the front and the back, and I thought these would be perfect. I inked around them, and then I used my Fabri-Tac glue to glue them down. And here I did 4 because I want to do 2 per journal cover. Do 2 on one and 2 on the other. At first, I started out, with making the 2 journals exactly the same. The basic journal itself the same, but then when it came to decorating, that's where I kind of deviated from, where there's the one that I made for her is a lot more colorful, I guess you could say, and mine I made more vintagey. So you'll see that, they're decorated differently in 2 different styles when you watch the other video. However, like I said, I just videotaped me decorating her journal because they're both kind of the same. I just used different ephemera and, elements, stickers and stamps and things, for hers versus mine. Um, so that's the only difference. And my journal, I didn't go as far as decorating it as I did with hers, because I figured, I can continue to work on mine and continue to add more and decorate more. So I wanted to get hers done so I could give it to her. So here I got a couple more of these, remove the plastic from those, and I thought these would be really cute to put on the front of these journals. Yeah, they got holes in them, but I can layer something over on top of them and cover up those holes, so I was not all that concerned. I measured the width of the cover and the width of what I would want, this to be, and I trimmed off a little bit on both sides because I want those holes to be evenly spaced on the front cover, so that when I cover it up with something else, another piece of pattern paper, which is what I'm going to use to kind of decorate the cover, then those holes would be covered and not showing. So I made a piece for each journal, and then again ink the edges, and then use my Fabri-Tac glue to glue them down. And so you're still going to see the packaging underneath, which is fine. I'm fine. It's a junk journal. It's supposed to be, evidence of being made out of junk, right? And so here's the other one I'm gluing down for the front cover on the second journal. And so then the next thing that I have to do is to make a template to sew in my pages. And so here I'm measuring, I had already divided the spine into 4 sections, and so here I'm just kind of quickly using that to make lines on this piece of paper to make a template. So I'm drawing those lines on the template, and I went, I think it was a 1/2 inch from one side of the spine, 1/2 inch from the other, and then divided what was between those into 2 sections. And then here I go, I believe it's 1 inch from the top, 1 inch from the bottom, and then divide it in half. So here I'm making my marks to go across those lines, and then divide what's what's the differences in half, and then where those lines cross, that's where I would make my holes. So I get all my supplies for doing the holes, and I have this padding from some packaging. I don't even remember where it came from. I've had it for years. That I put underneath when I poke holes because it's helpful. And then I poke my holes where those lines cross, and I made sure that it lined up with the spine. I erased on this particular one the pencil lines that I put on here, and then I go through and I just make sure that those holes are poked a little bigger to make it easier when I sew in the pages. And then I fold it in half down one line of holes. I put it into my first signature. I paper clip it. It's always easy to, if you have some paper clips to use. And then I poke my holes in my signatures. And I just added a T to the top to make sure that I'm, poking holes. I'm putting it in each signature with the same way, and that way all the holes will be the same. Because even though you measure everything, sometimes it can be a little off. One of the last journals I did, somehow I didn't put the T at the top, and I ended up on one of the signatures having it the opposite way, and it was off just enough to where it was bugging the crap out of me, like a 1/16 of an inch. So then once I got my holes poked in each of the 4 signatures, and I did this for both journals, I'm just showing you on this one. And again, the next video just continues with decorating the journal that I did for her. Then I take some wax thread and I measure 2.5 times the height of the spine, and then I cut 3 more lengths of string the same. That way I have 4. I thread my needle, I take the last signature, I go through the middle, and it's always easier for me to start with the last signature. And I leave a little tail, go through the top, go through the bottom, go back up through the middle, and I make sure that I'm on the opposite side of that center string from the tail. So I got a piece of string on each side of that, and then I tie a knot. I tie it like 3 times and then clip it. And I will go back through, which I don't really show that, and add a little touch of glue to each one just to double sure that they don't come undone. So again, through the middle, through the top, through the bottom, back through the middle, and tie off. So I do that for all 4 signatures, and I hope you come back and watch the other video where I show you how I go through and decorate the one journal for my friend, and then show you a flip through of both. So that's pretty much how you make your basic junk journal. Thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you later. Bye bye.